The holiday work party. What do you do and how do you survive it when you're autistic and ADHD? If you're like me, when you're autistic and ADHD, sometimes the holiday work party can be kind of a confusing time. There are often unspoken rules we're not quite sure what to do with. Hi, I'm Brett, the AuDHD Boss. I'm an autistic leader with ADHD. I have over 10 years of leadership experience, and on this channel, I talk about ADHD and autism in the workplace, and I take a strengths-based approach. Today's video is a request from someone in the comments about how to survive holiday work parties. This is a great question. I personally really struggle with this, not just at holiday work functions, but work functions in general. But I'm going to specifically speak to holiday work functions. In particular, I'm going to start with this. Remember to manage expectations. This is still a work function. This is not going to be anything where you want to get too social or too friendly. There's a particular line. This is one of those unspoken rules that we have to be mindful of. When you go to a work function, you have to be thinking in terms of there is still a work code of ethics. There are still things that you have to do and behave a particular way. You can't get too personal. You can't get too casual because it is still work. These are still work colleagues. So keep in mind that conversations and activities and things that you're going to do there, you want to be taking a work-safe approach to these things. I particularly like, again, I've mentioned this in past videos, what I call the Moira Rose rules to party. If you're a fan of Schitt's Creek, this is my favorite rule from Schitt's Creek is Moira Rose. She had one particular rule for event, twice around the room, and then leave. I love this policy in particular because when you go twice around the room, if you move slowly and you make sure that you're seen and heard, talk to the people you need to talk to, you smile, you nod, you show up, you do the thing. And by the time you've done around twice, that's pretty much going to be about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and you're probably good to go at that point. You don't want to rush the process. You want to make sure you stop, take time to talk to people when you feel comfortable to, and just work your way around the room. And as you slowly do that, maybe you eat some food, maybe you have some conversations, maybe you have something to drink, but as you go through the process and you tick off some of those social expectations that are kind of required of us at work, by the time you've done that twice around the room, you've pretty much filled the time that is probably required for you to be there, and then you can go. If you don't like going to these social functions, and sometimes I really struggle with them, sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't like them. They're all different and they all depend on how I am feeling and how my social anxiety and all my various AuDHD things are happening on the day, but sometimes they're fun, and sometimes I just can't get out of them fast enough, and sometimes I need recovery time that night or the next day. Sometimes I need to go completely nonverbal for a day after I've done a social function like this, so I need to plan for that as well when I'm sitting down to think about managing my own expectations. What are certain conversational topics that you feel comfortable talking about? Are there any particular stories? I like to lean into pets. I like to lean into my animals. I like to lean into my cat or my dogs or things like that. One of the things that I personally struggle with work events, whether they're holiday themed or not, is I don't do well with non-work conversations. I particularly struggle with how much of a personal thing do I want to share? How much of a special interest do I want to share? How much or how little is appropriate for the moment? Do I worry that the person I'm speaking to is going to tune out or is not paying attention or is not interested in the thing that I'm talking about? So for me, I tend to read that body language, or at least I try to read that body language. And if I feel like I'm losing somebody, I try to think about how I can tell my stories quickly or how I can share the thing quickly that I do or don't want to say. Now, if you're a fan of this channel, you know I don't tend to speak quickly or tell stories in a concise manner, so as a verbal processor, that tends to be hard for me. But I try to think about what are concise ways that I can tell certain stories. If I feel people are engaged or they're enjoying it, I'll go a little bit longer, but sometimes it's hard to read those in the moment. The other thing I like to think about is I like to go in with questions in my head. I like to go in with questions that I can ask people about or just be thoughtful in the conversations. I don't necessarily always want to share a lot about different things of my life, especially if there's music or you're in a loud situation, particularly if it's hard to hear or if it's hard to listen to. You have to sort of figure out how to listen closely so that you can do the different things. So instead of having to stress my voice or strain my voice to try to tell a story loudly or to tell a story in a particular way, because I like to think through all the stories that I tell, Oftentimes what I do is I just sort of lean into asking people questions. I try to think about different questions that I've got in mind. I try to think about non-work questions, although there will be some times in some pockets with people where they do want to talk work. And for me, I like that. I'm okay if we want to talk work. That's where my kind of safe space is. That's why I get so awkward at work parties, because I don't know how to not talk about work unless I know for a fact that person has a similar shared interest to me, which I don't always know. We get really inside our heads. I know I certainly do. A coworker once told me years and years ago, people are not as focused on you as you think they are. Most everybody is focused on themselves, what they're saying, what they're doing, what they're worried about. They're not often thinking or staring or watching you for your particular thing. So just alleviate yourself of any stress if you're feeling like all eyes are on you, or people are watching you, or people are judging you. Pretty much 90% of the time, they're not. So don't stress about that part as much. Try to let that one go if that's a concern of yours. Certainly, it's one of those things that for me, when I go to certain work functions, I'm worried about how am I presenting myself? How am I showing up in that space? How am I doing? Are all eyes on me? Truth of the matter is, most of the time, they're not. People are focused on either their own thing, what they're worried about, what they're thinking about, what they're doing. They're not really focused on you. I like to look for things that will keep me busy. I like to look for making sure I have a drink of some kind, be it water, be it something else, something to always kind of keep one hand busy with, like a drink or something. I then like to think about what are appropriate foods that I can eat while I'm talking, while I'm in motion, if I'm sitting and talking, who I'm going to go around with. I also look for safe people I know I can kind of either unmask with for a moment, or I can kind of take a breath with. I look for those really close friends at work that I can kind of latch onto. I might talk to them ahead of time just to sort of make sure, what time are you showing up? Can I hang around with you? Can I sit at that table with you? There are many times where I will come late to something because I don't want to be there, or I don't want to go to that thing, or I want to go in and get out really quickly. And by doing that, I sort of make a mistake of not making sure that I have a spot with the people that I want to hang out with, where I feel kind of safer with, where I will be less anxious with. So that's a mistake that I've made in the past. But also I try to make sure that I'm not latching on too hard or over monopolizing the time of the people that I'm looking to sort of like latch onto. I like to bring travel fidgets with me. I'll keep things in my pocket. I'll keep something like this. This is just a little like bag clip, but I use it as a fidget. Or I'll kind of keep something in like a jacket pocket or my pants pocket, something that doesn't look too obvious that I'm fidgeting, because you don't want it to look like you're being too fidgety in a situation. So, but this is something I can keep in a closed hand, so I can play with this like that as I'm walking around and people won't really notice. Okay, so as you're working around the room, you can pretty much time out when you should leave. Pretty much an appropriate amount of time to stay at one of these events is about an hour to an hour and a half. If you're having a good time, certainly stay as long as you want. There's no rule about how long is too long to stay. People are going to be there from the beginning to the end. But that's up to you. If you're comfortable and you feel good and you feel safe and everything's going really well for you, stay as long as you want. For me, I like to do about 90 minutes or less and then get out. Definitely have an exit plan, definitely have an entrance plan, definitely manage expectations, make sure you have like a fidget or two to help you get through things, have some safe people, have some safe friends, have those pockets of space where you can kind of go take a break, look for those certain places where it might be a little less busy or a little less activity, where you can kind of go and sort of not have to talk for a few minutes, or just sort of go and catch your breath. Take deep breaths and just sort of go slow, manage expectations, and not everybody's watching you, and just sort of remember and try to remember that not everybody's eyes are on you. For the most part, most people will not remember the holiday party or not think twice about it in a matter of a couple of days. So if anything awkward does happen, or you're feeling awkward about something you might say or you might do, which happens to me all the time, I know for a fact that by the following day or the following couple of days, no one's mostly going to remember that anyways. And just go slow with yourself. Just go slow with yourself and don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's okay. It's just a holiday party. It's not really, there's not a lot of pressure there. Don't go in filling your head with any sort of pressure. I know for me, it's more about the social anxiety and the noise and just sort of all those different things. And once I can get past that, I'm good. I hope some of that was helpful and wasn't too random in sort of how I spoke, but hopefully some of that can work for you. I wouldn't say I'm great at these types of things, but I do understand, sympathize, and share that anxiety of the work function and the work party. The one thing you want to definitely do is, if you're anything like me, give yourself recovery time. Usually it takes me a couple of days afterwards to recover from being too social. time of recording, I'm a couple of days away from Thanksgiving, and I just came back from a huge work event that lasted 4 days. And when I came home from that, I was completely exhausted. I could barely speak the night I came home. I could barely speak the next day. I had to sit in perfect silence for the whole day and just rest and recover. I probably slept the entire day because my battery was just so entirely drained from that. And even today, I was drained most of the day and most of the morning, and I had a little bit of energy, and I thought if I don't record this video now, I won't get it out in time. And this is very much fresh in my mind, having just done a work event 2 nights ago, time of recording. If you have a topic you'd like for me to cover, let me know in the comments, and hopefully this has been helpful. If you have suggestions for other people, please let us know in the comments. Certainly I could use them. And if you've got any other holiday survival tips or guides, let us know in the comments. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Again, I'm Brett, the AuDHD Boss. I'm autistic and ADHD leader with over 10 years experience. Please like and subscribe if you found this video or some of the others helpful, and please check out some of the other videos while you're here. Thanks for watching.